I'm Nancy Showalter, and you're listening to Spirituality for the Politically Incorrect podcast. Welcome, all radical paradigm shifters and creative change makers. You who dare to create a better life and a better world. Tap into the power that resides within you and use that power for constructive change. Hello and welcome to today's episode, Why Wouldn't You Want to Be Rich? We touched on this in our first episode of this series, but I want to dig a little deeper because I believe this is very important for us to examine these beliefs that we have and what is actually holding you back from living the abundant life. Now, it turns out there are many reasons why you would consciously or subconsciously resist becoming rich or even being considered rich. Now, one of them is the trend of the day that seems to be demonizing those that are wealthy. Yes, there are wealthy that are selfish, greedy, and manipulative, and perhaps even manipulating and attempting to control the masses. But what about the everyday people that have earned an honest living, are living an abundant life and giving back? What about those who sponsor underprivileged kids' education, those that pay for kids being hospitalized for serious illnesses, those who leave their comfortable lives to go help in another country when there's a disaster, and on and on. And you find many people with wealth who are doing just these kinds of things. There are far more people of these people than the ones that fit the first description. Wouldn't you want to be one of those? Wouldn't you love to be able to help your parents in their old age? Pay for your children's education without going bankrupt? Take vacations, spend time with your family. All this is possible when you have the flow of abundance in your life, when you have money. But we do see current social and even our political trends that are blaming the rich for the plight of the poor. Some want you to feel guilty for living an abundant life, even though most of our religious traditions teach exactly the opposite, that we're all meant to live an abundant life and not be reduced to the lowest common denominator. Jesus said, I have come to bring you life and that more abundantly. Having wealth frees you to not only care for yourself and your family, but to give more to others in whatever way you choose and to give your gifts to the world. Another reason you may not want to become rich is because you see so many people sacrificing their happiness, their families, and their health to achieve a certain lifestyle that they think will bring them happiness. So you might be subconsciously sabotaging yourself because you don't want to give up those things. But the truth is, you don't have to give up those things. You can achieve wealth and also live a balanced lifestyle. It's all up to you. It's your choice how you live your life. Remember, we talked about the power of choice in our first session. But to make different choices, a shift is required. A shift in your thinking, feeling, and actions. But probably one of the biggest reasons that people who are religious or who are on a spiritual path resist attaining wealth is because we've been taught that being rich is an impediment to our spirituality. Then you might belong to a certain caste and wealth is not for you. And if you're a spiritual leader or teacher, heaven forbid you should be rich, even though most historical religious texts say we're meant to be living an abundant life. Prophets in the Old Testament were wealthy, with many lands and riches, but for some reason these parts of the teachings are not emphasized. It's not about whether or not you have financial riches in your life. It's about your attachment to money and possessions. Do they define you? Do they define your success? Or do you use them wisely and understand that your happiness and rich life does not depend on a certain amount of money or the material things you may accumulate? Keep in mind, you can be just as attached to your poverty or lack of money as you are to your riches. So don't fool yourself into thinking that because you're poor or because you always need more abundance, that you're necessarily more spiritual or spiritual at all. Your spirituality comes from within you. It's all about your motives and what's in your heart, whether you are rich or poor by worldly standards. A man or a woman is worthy of the fruits of his or her labor. And in this day of unlimited information available to all of us, with just the click of a mouse, you never have to stop learning and growing and becoming more of who you were meant to be. This is true wealth, and is reflected in the effort of your contributions that can be thusly rewarded with the flow of money and riches into your life. So again, it's not about whether or not you have financial riches in your life. It's about your attachment to money and possessions. Jesus actually demonstrated this. You can read when the wealthy man, the rich man, came to Jesus and said, "Master, what can I do to gain eternal life?" And Jesus answered him and said, "You know the commandments." And he listed them off to him. And the wealthy man said, "Oh, I've been doing those things since I was a young man." And Jesus said, "Well, there is one more thing, and that is, give away all your riches to the poor and follow me." And the rich man could not do it. Even though he wanted greater spirituality, greater spiritual attainment, and wanted what Jesus had, he was too attached to his riches to go after it. So think about that this week. Number one, are there ways that you're sabotaging yourself because of hidden beliefs that you don't deserve to be rich? Maybe fear encompasses your entire attitude around money, fear there won't be enough, when in reality, that very fear is what closes off the flow of abundance. Do you have hidden resentments against those that are rich? Take a good look and let this be a week of reflection. And also, are you attached to money? Are you attached to material things? Do they define you in any way? Do you feel like you're a failure because you don't meet the standards of the world as far as wealth is concerned? So all of these things can be impediments to what we want. Again, remember from our last podcast, the power of decision. It's a stake in the ground. This is the way it's going to be. If you're fearful, you're not going to be fearful anymore. You make that decision. And you make the decision to focus on what you want to create. So this should be an interesting week for you with some inner reflection. And I will see you next week. Until then, keep an open mind, a generous heart, and a powerful spirit. Thank you for being with me today, and if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, download, and comment. I'd love to hear from you, and your support is much appreciated. And don't forget to go to theawakeningnow.com for free bonuses and information on my new book, You Were Born to Be a Christ, but You Were Taught You Are a Sinner. Awaken to who you really are. See you next week.